What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 24. As soon as she was there, she fell to her knees sobbing. She almost murdered him. Her, a murderer! Why? What had happened to her brother? What happened to her? Mitten would never love a murderer. What was she thinking? She realized the Wild One had been right. He wasn't Henry anymore. He was turning into something else and taking over her mind. She stared down at him, at his black little soul. The searing heat was there as before, but stronger this time. Lil found herself glad he was out of her head. Here she was safe. Here she could be with him and not turn into a monster. Here she didn't have to kill him. She would just stay here. I knew you would be back. Lil looked up and saw the Wild One. So you were right. So what? I'm going to live here now. We can stay together here. No. No? Your consciousness is here, but his is still with your body. In a few days he will be able to move you. In a few more able to force you against your will to move. In a few more there will be no you. There already is no him. Let him go, daughter of ties. But, he is not your brother. From what I understand, you have a true brother from your mother's womb that you have abandoned. Why do you cling so to this one and forsake the real one? She died giving birth to him. Henry died because he was raped. The means stole from me, and he was the only one who understood. My baby brother stole my mother. Henry never hurt anyone. He was innocent. Henry understood me. I didn't want him. I didn't want to love him. I want to have Henry. You cannot have Henry, and you must forgive your brother. It dishonors you and ties for you to hate him. Lil cried and cried. The Wild One did not hold her or comfort her. She was probably scared to be attached to Henry's spirit as well. Lil didn't want to lose him. Lil loved him. He deserved a long, happy life. She didn't want him to die, but she didn't want him to become worse of a monster even more. She loved him too much to let him become something like the monster king that had raped him. She sat up and started trying to pull him away. He clung to her, his spirit sealed to her. The fire was coming back. The more she pulled, the more it hurt. The more she struggled, the more he was making her cry. Soon she was screaming, but she still pulled. She pulled for his sake. She was willing to undergo any amount of torture for him to be safe. She shook and strived and screamed, ever so slowly. He began to withdraw out of her, first his head, then his torso, finally his arms and legs. It took what seemed hours and hours, and even where he was gone from her, the burning kept on. But once released, he began to turn yellow again, only as one foot was still black and was leaving her body as she wailed. Soon he was released, and he was so golden and bright Lil couldn't look at him any more. He was blinding. Then he flew away north into the sky. Only once he was gone did the Wild One pick her up and hold her. Lil felt the woman caressing her chest and making odd gestures with the air. The fire began to die. Lil kept crying. Finally she sat up, but didn't wipe her tears away. Henry was worth crying for, but the tears weren't for him. The tears were for her, and she was amazed to find her own self worth crying for. The Wild One studied her face, making sure all the madness was over. I am Trixian, Blaxian's sister. I am Lil, the little brave one of the Black Weapon clan, second in line to the throne of Andrus. I see. How long have we been here? Probably a day in our time. I should go back then. Everyone will be worried again. Light, but I am a nuisance. You need training. Come back here to me, and I will continue what Blaxian started, little brave nuisance. The Wild One laughed at her and bid her water and shade on her way. Lil returned the farewell. Trixian was younger than Blaxian. Lil noticed she was actually a lovely woman, as she seemed to collapse into a pool of water and slide away like that. Her way of travel? Light she would never have thought to go with flowing water. When she awakened, Mitten was watching over her. So was Gimp. Lil slowly sat up, afraid of their calm faces, and folded hands on their laps. I think you like attention. Mitten, I'm sorry. What happened this time? I saved Henry by melding his spirit to mine, but the dead become monsters the longer they're undead, and well, he was turning me into one too. I had to sever him from me. Blaxian's sister was there. I think I might have died if she weren't. Light, you know how to bring some serious trouble upon yourself. Not all of it is my fault. From where I am sitting, it is. It's my fault I was raped? Well, if you didn't show off so much of your skin all of the time, maybe she wouldn't have wanted you. How can you think that? You won't tell me different. You didn't tell me Tindra came to see you at the college. It hasn't been important enough to mention there has always been some huge drama with you. You're not going to forgive me this time, are you? Mitten let out a deep breath. I don't know, Lil. I don't know what to feel or think toward you. You are a torture to be around. I'm sorry. Mitten stood up, her face pained and angry. You were going to kill him, weren't you? Gimp thinks you were going to kill yourself and I wasn't there. But if you were going to kill yourself, you would have done it when you were raped. You were going to stab him with that broken sword, weren't you? Lil wanted to explain. She wanted her to understand. But she had no real defense. Yes. Mitten nodded as if she'd already known the answer. She had, really. You should go, Lil. Go back to your people. Go to Shalom for all I care. Just go. Mitten held Donnie left the room, slamming the door behind her. Lil felt a single tear running down her left cheek. She let it fall. Then she arose and put on her Entha gear. Little brave one, please, where are you going? And how long will you be gone for? Lil hadn't even remembered Gimp Haldani was there. The woman's face was hard, but her eyes were fierce. She was still completely rigid and still. All her focus was on Lil. I'm going to earn my mother's forgiveness. I will be gone perhaps forever, but at least many years. Gimp looked like she was trying to hold something back that she wanted to say. She shut her eyes for a few seconds, putting her hand on her chest. So long, she whispered through a cracking voice. Her eyes flashed open, and she looked like a whirlwind about to start raging. The woman was fighting, saying something to Lil. Lil almost wished she would. Let her yell at her. Let her tell her how much she dishonored herself. Lil wanted to cry. How long it had been since she had even thought of honor. She started stuffing the meal on the bedstand into her mouth, since she didn't know when she would eat cooked food again. She put a book with her mother in it down her overcoat and then stood to go. Gimp arose and caught her arm as she opened the door to leave. Where are you going? Fire was still there in her eyes, about to explode. Somewhere where no one will find me. Somewhere where I can't hurt any of you anymore. Where, Lil? Gimp snarled it. Lil was scared of the woman for a second. Her grip on her arm was going to leave a bruise. Gimp seemed in disbelief for a moment, and she let go and stepped back, taking a deep breath. She was sad, Lil realized suddenly, that Gimp was so torn between killing her or letting her go. But that woman was considering disregarding duty to the power for their friendship. At the same time, it meant so much to her. River Mountain! Lil said it and sprinted through the halls as fast as her legs would go. She dashed out the main gates and almost flew down the mountain. She dodged people she scarcely noticed as she ran along the streets of the capital. She paid no mind to the buildings or colors. She had to go. She was trying to outrun the shame. Lil ran until her legs gave out. She didn't go to the Wilder. She wanted to disappear again. If people figured out where she was or what she was doing, they might want to assassinate her brother too. Tamrock and Mina, Yedem, her brother. Those were her goals.